because God has something incredibly special in this season. He is doing something, man. I mean, status quo is not a word we could use for 2020. I mean, this is a year of significant change. And if you firmly believe out there that God is in control of all things, man, you got to believe that this is not a surprise to the Creator. And if this is not a surprise to the Creator, He's got something gift wrapped inside of this.
5 for 5.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pursuit. I'm Jon Sporov and he is Jeff Hutchin.
Welcome back, my man.
It's been a while.
You kind of had the funk.
Well, let's just be more specific. The funk in this case was the Rona.
The COVID.
The COVID, it got me. And we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we will at some point.
I'm just glad you're back, man.
But I'm glad to be back.
You know, we had probably our highest rated show when you were out, but I wasn't going to point that out, but I thought, well, I might as well.
Yeah.
It obviously had nothing to do with the fact that I was talking to the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia. But
that's crazy. And he was sitting right here in this chair.
He was.
And I didn't get to meet him.
Royalty.
I asked him, I said, why don't you push this one out? I want to meet this man.
Well, it's an incredible story.
Is he coming back? You scare him off.
You still haven't seen it, have you? You haven't.
I watched a little bit of it.
Be honest to Pursuit Nation.
I watched. I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to catch up in every area of my life.
What the heck you were doing? You were laying in bed for 14 days. You had
wallowing
time to catch up.
And truth be told, it was 2 weeks, but really there was only 2 days of actual sickness. The rest of it was just protecting the world from a positive COVID test.
You were blessed, my man.
Yes, sir. But you know what? Let's talk, before we get into, by the way, today is 5 for 5. What do you think about that new intro, the new jingle for the 5 for 5?
Cool stuff, huh?
I'm wondering how many people out there are going to recognize the 5 for 5 voice.
It's high tech. This is high tech working on.
Yeah, we're going jingles. We got to go jingles. Got to up our game, man. And speaking of upping our game, one of the things that we've done since the beginning, and I don't know that we could up our game any more than this, is bring on a partner in Cornerstone Payment Systems.
They've been huge. They make it all possible. They're one of the few companies that have come alongside us and have made what we're doing possible, which, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. If you're out there and you're like, hey, how do I get my company on The Pursuit? Well, there's opportunity for sponsorship. So if you want a piece of that, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to let you know a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. But for Cornerstone Payment Systems, we'll talk about them real quick. They are our merchant service, not just a sponsor, but they are our merchant service provider and partner. That's right. As they have, they serve this broadcast, and we believe that they're going to serve you as well. Whether you have a ministry or a business, whether you have brick and mortar business, you're 100% online, you need the ability to accept credit card payments, and they will come alongside you and do just that for you. If you want to see what that looks like, check out thepursuitonline.com. Upper left, upper right-hand corner?
Upper
somewhere,
right, I believe.
Somewhere. You'll see.
You should see our website sometime.
I should check it out. I should check out that website right after I catch up with Tamrat.
Oh, jeez.
There you go.
Please.
And one last thing. If you tell them, when you call Cornerstone Payment Systems, and by the way, if you want to call them, it's 888-506-0208, or you can hit them on cornerstonepaymentsystems.com. But when you do contact them, let them know that you heard about them here. And if you sign up, you will receive a $100 cash bonus.
Beautiful deal.
Good deal.
All right.
5 for 5.
Let's get into 5 for 5. Why don't you explain to everybody what we're doing while I set our timer?
Oh, man, you and these rules with the 5. Okay, so you and I have both created, I got 3 questions this time, you got 2. So we're going to rotate 3 and 2. And I have not shown you, unless you've cheated.
I have not.
Okay. And I have no idea what you've written down. Good Lord, help me. I don't know what it could be. But you and I take turns, and for 5 minutes, we hit each other with one question that has not been scripted, and we'll just see where this takes us.
We got good feedback on this episode last time we did it. We decided we're gonna do this once a month.
Once a month.
And we got great feedback from everybody that saw the first 5 for 5.
They like it.
So we thought, well, let's stick with it.
Let's do it.
Let's go with it again. You get to start, my man.
I do. Is my timer going?
So read it, and 5 minutes we'll discuss. Now, by the way, I'm a little upset. You were going to buy one of those fancy timers that buzzed or something, went off. What happened? Why didn't you?
You know what?
You didn't do your job, did you?
Yeah. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about later.
Okay.
There's a reason.
All right.
Okay.
You got number 1.
Number 1.
Fire away.
Thinking back, now we're on episode, believe it or not, this is 61 or 62. And we got a lot of episodes under our belt, okay? So just in a moment of retrospective, sort of nostalgia, looking back, okay? What is the most eye-opening or jaw-dropping thing that has been said by a guest that just, I don't know, maybe it's something profound, maybe it's something funny, maybe it's something sad, but if you had to name one thing that is just like, I'm a different person because I heard that, what would it be?
The first thing that came to my mind, and then there's probably a lot more if I really sat and thought about it, but the first thing that came to my mind was our first Sonia Bruner episode. And for those of you that haven't seen that episode, an amazing story of a young lady that was sexually abused, was sex trafficked by her mom's boyfriend for many, many years, and the things that she went through and the things she had to overcome. And then to see her today as a grown woman married to an incredible man, a pastor in a church, and she's healthy, she's strong, and she's not just healthy and strong, but she has the ability to go out and minister to others that are facing similar struggles and challenges and battles in this area of sex and sex addiction and trafficking and abuse. And it's just amazing to me, A, what she's been through, and B, the fact that she has gotten to a place where she's healthy enough to be able to minister to others. That was deeply impactful to me.
Yeah, that was huge. And also a songwriter and also a Pursuit contributor now, by the way.
Absolutely. She's an incredible woman. She's incredibly funny.
Yeah, she is.
We've yet to hear, what she can do behind a keyboard and with her voice, but from what we're hearing, she's got an incredible talent.
Right.
And by the way, as it relates to our contributors, we're going to be launching very soon a new music contributor portion to the Pursuit, where musical contributors are going to be able to send in their stuff, and she's going to help us to scope that vision out. So we're excited to see what that looks like. What about you? What's a moment that you recall that strikes you?
I would have absolutely said Sonia. That was clearly an impactful moment for me. It totally caught me off guard, and still think about it and means a heck of a lot to me. But you know what? I'm going to go a different direction, and just off the top of my head, I'm going to say the series of conversations that we had, particularly with Ira Williams, as the George Floyd incident was unfolding and the social unrest was developing. And here's why I say that, Hutch. Because it highlighted for me not only that we have the permission, but the responsibility to have hard conversations, and also the permission to not agree. And the permission to, not that we were totally departing in any way, I think, from Ira's perspective on it, but the thought that, man, we can have somebody on that's going to bring a different perspective that we can learn like real time on the air from, and have a conversation with, and at the end of the day, still be brothers with, and I'd be better for having that conversation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so it was a freeing thing where people were looking at us, oh my gosh, you guys are going to talk about that? Why wouldn't we, right?
Well, gaining perspective, right? A new perspective, a different perspective. It's not that perspective is right or wrong. It's just different than what you and I might have as a white person growing up in a predominantly white, culture and community. It's interesting to get a new perspective, and I think that's really the key to misunderstanding, right? One of the things we always talk about is seek first, to understand before being understood. And that's it sounds really good, but it's a whole nother thing to actually live it out and do it, because it requires a lot of humility and putting aside your opinion and your pride and actually, our time is up on this question, and it leads in beautifully to my question.
Is that right?
Almost as though we orchestrated this together.
Okay.
What is the role? Here's the question. What is the role of believers, followers of Jesus? What is the role of the followers of Jesus in these uncertain political times? Because during the IRA time, it was primarily a lot of racial issues, right, with the whole George Floyd, I can't breathe. Now we find ourselves in some extremely uncertain political times with, as the date of recording this episode, an official new president hasn't been announced yet. There's been some declarations, but there's still a lot of lawsuits that are pending. A lot of things uncertain, a lot of things out there on social media. What's the role of believers in this?
I think it's to put our money where our mouth is. Here's what I mean by that.
I was going to say, what do you
Here's what I mean by
that?
that. You know the old song that says, I'm not going to sing it. I put my trust in nothing less than Jesus Christ and his righteousness, or something like that. The old school hymn, right? It's so old school, I don't remember it, obviously. But we have an opportunity. I mean, it's easy to say in a season and time where you feel, right or wrong, that the environment sort of makes the ability for you to live your life and stand for what you think is right easy. It's easy if you were to tell me, I'm going to give you a boat, and I'm going to put in a compass and enough gas. This is a gas-powered boat, by the way. It's not a sailboat.
Okay.
To go from here to Hawaii. Okay. And you put me in that boat, and you said, and by the way, I'm going to guarantee that between here and there's not going to be a single wave that's going to be higher than what you see right now. Just totally glassy sea. You're not going to encounter a hurricane, a storm, or whatever. I would have a confidence, right, that I could get there with this compass and enough gas and supplies and provisions. But my trust would be in the fact that you're telling me that I'm not going to encounter any obstacles or any difficulties.
Okay.
And you know what? Let's just call it like it is. If you are conservative and you're aligned with kind of biblical stances on important things like abortion and those sorts of things, okay? It's pretty easy to see, regardless of maybe who you voted for, whatever, okay? We are where we are. But it's pretty easy to see where things are going to begin to fall on the spectrum of liberal versus conservative and that sort of thing. And generally, they're going to, it appears, fall on the other side, where it's not kind of where we all want it to be, right? From the standpoint of just, kind of more conservative leanings on important things.
I'm still really nervous where you're going with
Where
this.
I'm going with this is we have the opportunity to say Donald Trump or Joe Biden has not, will not, and will never be our King of Kings, our Lord of Lords. Somebody said it like this on a podcast I was listening to. I think it was Jason Mayfield, as a matter of fact. He said, I got to apologize to you guys right now because I am just choosing to bypass the President of the United States for all things related to my life, and I'm going to go directly to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, right? And so all that to say, Hutch, I feel like we have an opportunity, back to what I said initially, put our money where our mouth is, and if we are trusting in God to get us proverbially to Hawaii in that boat, regardless of the storm, okay, here's our opportunity to prove it, to walk in it, and to say, it doesn't matter if there's policy that sort of dictates to me that I'm going to have to wear a mask from now until the end of time, and that abortion is never going to be illegal, or you name your favorite hot button issue, that Jesus is still Lord, and his purpose for me can still be accomplished in this earth because it's not dependent on the environment.
Let me push back a little bit.
Okay.
Because you're saying, okay, we've got to put our money where our mouth. So what does that mean? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Because what I'm seeing manifest right now amongst the conservative community, I'm not going to say the Christians, but in the conservative community is not bad. Matter of fact, I'm seeing a pulling away and a pulling out and a retreating. Not in a defeatist way, but in a almost like in a defiant way, like screw you, right? I'm going to go do my own thing.
But let me ask you this,
that
Hutch.
To me doesn't sound like, and I don't think that's what you're saying.
It's not what I'm saying. Here's what I mean by that. You want to change the culture? Change the culture.
Yeah.
Don't back away and run away from culture. If your responsibility is to change that culture, and by the way, if you're on the other side of the fence with this, as a Democrat who thought that Joe Biden was going to slam dunk Donald Trump or whatever, it doesn't matter in this election which side of the fence you fall on. You have to acknowledge that there is some significant amount of the population that sees things the exact opposite of you. Okay, and so what is that? Should that prompt in us? Should that prompt us to say, well, you know what, it's us four and no more, forget those people. We don't love them, we don't care for them. We're going to do our thing and have our own little subculture, right? No, you want to change the culture? Change the culture.
Can I say it another way? And it's actually a
Yeah.
quote that was shared on one of our earlier episodes.
Okay.
And I love this. Is when you talk about changing the culture, changing the climate, are we going to be a thermostat or are we going to be a thermometer?
Who said that? That was so
I don't remember, but
that
it was
good.
I'm going to steal it and say that I did, even though I didn't.
Jason McKay.
No, I think it was me.
Oh, it was you. Jeff Hutchin, as quoted by Jeff.
It's a great statement to say, as followers of Christ, we are either going to be a thermostat that's going to change things, or a thermometer that's simply just a reflection of what the culture is already telling us.
It's so good.
And we've got a chance to change the climate, the spiritual climate that we live in. And so we could talk about this one all the rest of the time.
And by the way, let me end it with this. Calm down, everyone, right? We get so myopic about everything.
That's right.
Listen, I'm going to put it in Dallas Cowboys terminology, because if there's
chaos
ever doom and gloom for a Cowboys fan,
and Broncos.
it is and Broncos.
I'm with you.
In this year. But you know what? If we had a myopic lens, we could say, oh my God, the world is ending from a football perspective. It's not. They'll be back.
That's right.
Right?
All right.
Okay.
Fire away.
Oh, yeah, it's my turn. All right. Again, first two questions, spirit of nostalgia, okay? Looking back over the year. If you could rewind this year from any perspective and change any decision that you personally have made, given what's unfolded this year, what would you have done differently? Is it man, I should have never sold that stock, or I should have, fill in the blank. What jumps out to you? I'm trying to kill a little bit of time to give you some time to think.
You prompted me by one of the offers that you threw out there.
Okay.
I wish I would have bought stock in Zoom.
Oh my gosh.
Let me just say that right now. I wish I would have bought stock in Zoom.
Yeah.
If I had to reflect and really think about what would I have done differently going into this year, other than I would have stocked up on a bunch of toilet paper.
There you go. Yeah.
Can I be honest with you and say this? I don't think there's anything that I would have done differently.
That's a good answer.
I can confidently rest in that there isn't really anything that's just jumping out at me right now that's saying, God, you really messed up, or you really should have seen this coming. I think, man, this season we're in is, I think we can say, in our lifetime, is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And the things that we've faced this year as a nation and as an entire planet is incredible. And this is what I'm going to choose to do. I'm going to choose to look at this season as a gift. And I think if we choose to look at it in any other way, then we're cutting ourselves short. Because God has something incredibly special in this season. He is doing something, man. I mean, status quo is not a word we could use for 2020. I mean, this is a year of significant change. And if you firmly believe out there that God is in control of all things, man, you got to believe that this is not a surprise to the Creator. And if this is not a surprise to the Creator, He's got something gift wrapped inside of this.
And in 30 seconds, give them a quick download, because as I hear you say that, the word that jumps out to me, banah. Yeah. It is an understanding to get through this year and to say, really, I have no regrets, tells me that you're living in a place where you're getting some downloads. Maybe it's not, Moses on the mountain and you come down and you're glowing, but what is banah in understanding? And talk about that real quick.
To me, but this is what banah is. Banah is wisdom in a season. Okay? That's different than wisdom. Wisdom, just traditional wisdom as we define it, is something we learn in a previous season. It's newfound knowledge, and then we take that newfound knowledge that we learned from a previous season and we apply it in this season. That's wisdom, right? That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom, is applying knowledge.
Sure.
The problem is, if we just rely completely on traditional wisdom, we're potentially missing something that God has for us in a new season. Because God never does the same thing the same way twice. He's creative, He's unique, and He's different. He does radical things. And so what that requires of you and I is a radical faith and a radical relationship that is so in tune with the voice of the Father that we receive new wisdom in a new season to be applied to that season. The best example that you and I have talked about, one of the great examples I think in scriptures, is Noah, right? So when God came to Noah and said, Noah, there's going to be a flood and I want you to build an ark. If Noah used traditional wisdom, he would go, that doesn't make any sense.
Rain? What is rain?
Exactly.
Right.
Right, and he would never build it. But what he did is he took wisdom in a new season newfound knowledge in a new season, and he applied it, and it created the remnant, right? Same thing with Joseph. When Joseph was under the Pharaoh, and God said to him, listen, there's going to be 7 years of great harvest, and there's going to be 7 years of famine. I'm telling you, during the 7 years of harvest, put away grain for the time that's forthcoming in the difficult times. And again, if Joseph would have applied traditional wisdom, he never would have listened. He never would have obeyed. That's banal.
And could I say then that equally as profound as that might be, those are extreme examples. Flooding of the earth, Jericho's another one, right?
Sure.
The walls of Jericho fell after they marched around 7 times. Does that mean that you just march around a city 7 times and the walls will fall because that's what God? No, he does things differently in a season. Right. But could it be in a moment where there's this pressure of you should be panicking, you should freak out, sell, right? Hunker down, that when God speaks and says, have peace, be peace to the world around you. When you're supposed to be all about what I can consume and what I can take in, no, pour out, give out. Is that kind of what we should be listening for? Is that banal?
If that's what he says.
Yeah.
If that's what he says. And that's kind of the position I've taken. You and I've talked about this a lot, is, God, I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do. If you want me to sell everything, I'll sell everything.
Yep.
If you want me to move, I'll move. Whatever you want me to do, I'm obedient and I'm ready and I'm willing. Just speak to your servant, and here I am listening. And so, am I perfect at it? Without, of course not. I'm not perfect at it. But I think if that's the position we can take, God's going to speak to his kids. He's not going to want to hold back information from his kids.
Amen.
So if we just position ourselves and listen, he'll tell us.
Speaking of positioning ourselves, we are now in position for the fourth question.
The fourth question.
Because I think we've gone over a little bit, but on that last one.
No worries. What's your greatest fear? This is all-encompassing. Greatest fear.
My greatest fear is that I will miss the opportunity to go all in. It's an easy one for me. And here's what I mean by that. You know my story, and I won't tell my whole story here, but I got married very young, had kids very young, and so moved in. It was sort of automatically put into a position by the decisions that I made, and they were good decisions. I look back and say, thank God. Imagine this: where would I be without my wife Tara right now? We've laughed about. You pointed that out a million times. Enough said. So that was one of my best decisions. My best decision besides accepting Christ. And because of that, I sort of walked into a situation where I have to be risk averse. I learned to be risk averse. I can't go start a business. I couldn't go do that. I couldn't take a risk. Why? Because I have 2 little girls before I'm 24. 2 little girls, Jazz and Amber, that are depending on me to bring home the bacon, so to speak, right? And so from that perspective, man, I couldn't afford to just go all in, no matter how much I trusted God, no matter how much I felt the nudging. You could say, man, yeah, but if he was calling you to it, maybe his provision was there too. And I'd say, you're probably exactly right about that. But I'm just telling you, I have a sensitivity about my willingness to go all in. And now that I've lived a little more life, and I see that the things that I can go create with my hands that look like safety and look like provision and look like responsible things to do, while they're good, there's something in me that says, you need to go all in. And I don't want to miss an opportunity. Every week, you and I, in fact, today we're going to have a meeting with our social media management team. Shout out to Megan to Meg and Miranda out there at Calatrello Creatives. We partnered up with them. They're great.
El Paso, Texas.
El Paso. And shout out to them. Hey, every week we say, man, let's reinvent it. Like, what's the next thing? What do we need to be doing? And the reason that I'm from the standpoint of, like, I'm willing every week to throw it out and start it over and rethink things and recreate things is because I don't want to miss anything that God has for us, man. And the pursuit for me represents that first step. It's not putting the toe in the water. It's sort of, man, okay, yeah, I'm going to dip everything, and then I'm getting ready to cannonball.
Love it.
What about you? You don't have fears. You're Superman.
No, you can't ask me the question, but you get 3 questions, I get 2 questions. If
Wait,
you want to ask me my
is a
greatest fear,
reciprocal question not? That
no.
was like 4A.
no,
that wasn't.
If you want to ask
question
me my
5.
greatest fear, you need to add it to the list next month.
Okay. Note to self. Note to
So
self.
no, I'm not
Okay,
going to tell you.
Note to self.
My greatest fear is heights.
Which you have to understand the irony of that. My friend is
told.
6'8", so I'm sure getting up then in the morning must scare you to death.
Every day is a fear factor.
All right, let's move on. We got to catch up anyway.
Okay.
All right, so here we
Last
go.
one. This is it.
This is it. All right, I'm going to ask you to open up your life to the folks out there from this perspective. Okay, here we go. We talk about the importance of our tagline, relentless pursuit of truth and transformation. Mm-hmm. And what does that look like? That's not just one lane of our life. That's a 360-degree thing. And in order to do that, and if you were to just sit down and say, okay, what does that look like, 360 degrees? Okay, that means financially, I need to be on target and align with the Lord. Physically, my nutrition, my health, my fitness, spiritually, the way I'm reading, what I'm taking in, what I'm putting out from the standpoint of ministering to others. There is a gamut of things. We could talk for 5 minutes about what that would look like. Give the folks out there, because I think you do a really good job of keeping a balanced pursuit. In other words, you're not really good at the Bible and you never go to the gym. You're not a great preacher and you have your finances in order, right? Give them just a taste of what the day in the life looks like from the standpoint of how do you keep those balls juggling in the air? What are some of the little things that you do to nudge things along to ensure on a daily basis that you're keeping that balanced pursuit?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, I'm going to give a ton of the credit to my wife, to be really honest with you. I have an incredible partner, and she knows me better than anybody, and we're highly intentional in our marriage. And I think in any successful relationship, it requires intentionality. And so she and I spend a lot of time sitting down and just talking. We have coffee together almost every single morning where we just stop and reflect and we check in on each other on different things. And so I'll just say from the first part that she does an incredible job of helping me to maintain balance and providing accountability in all the different ways. And she's just an incredible partner and incredible gift that God has given me for sure. But I think the word I keep going back to, and I think the reason why we've been fairly successful, again, not perfect, but fairly successful in maintaining balance, is back to that one word, and that word is an intentionality. When you and I joined forces almost a year ago now, and we started talking about what this thing looks like, our tagline is not just something that's fancy that sounds good. It's something we really strongly believe in. Yeah, we're going to pursue truth, and man, I pursued truth for a long time in my faith walk. But the problem was it never translated into transformation. I knew the right things. I knew all the scriptures. I knew all the right answers. But my life wasn't always a reflection of it. And call it maturity, call it a bunch of mistakes, call it failures and successes, and let's face it, we learn best through failure. I'll speak for myself. I learn best through failure. I hate to say that, but that's where some of the greatest transformation in my life has come. It's through failure. And so we're kind of at a stage in our life now to where we can see the end. And it really, when you can begin to see the end, man, it really forces you to reflect and really forces you to go, man, what do I want to be known for? How do I want to be remembered? What legacy do I want to leave behind? And man, as long as I have breath, I have a chance to change that. I have a chance to impact that. And so, Sherry and I are just very intentional, and I'm grateful. I'm surrounded by guys like you and other friends that are part of this ministry that believe the same thing. And I'm thankful for that.
That's good. I want to highlight what you just said. I think in Ecclesiastes, I want to say it's 3 or 8, some curvy number in my head, that says, as long as there's breath, there is hope. So it's not just something that is eternal, that is God-breathed, that is, you can bank on it, right? And I want to highlight the fact that you said you learn best through failure. I think a lot of us do. But it's not just the failure, it's a failure that provokes a response.
You bet.
And your response has been one of healthiness, of saying, oh, I didn't, not all failures is shame on us. It's sort of shame on the world. Like, man, I didn't see that coming. Nobody told me that was around that bend. And I came around the bend and got whacked in the head with a hammer. Yeah. But you know what? If our response then is to not go a different direction, or to at least bring a shield when you walk around that corner again, so you don't get hit with the hammer. So I just commend you for the response. And so talk about, if you would, as we close here, just our desire to come alongside everybody that's listening right now and watching right now, to help them in that same pursuit, to encourage them to learn from those mistakes. And not that we're doing it perfectly, but to bring on guests that might model some behavior or something that they've learned to bring into your life, my life.
Yeah, that's really what we're after, right, John? Is we want to allow people to come on and share their stories, man. The successes, the failures, the things that they've learned, the lessons that God has shown us. Because I tell you what, the only other better way to learn is by someone else's mistakes, right? Somebody else's failures. And so we can bring men and women on here that come on to not just share their story, but more importantly than that, to share the other side of that story, right? What has happened because of what's unfolded in their life.
Amen.
And here's the deal: whether you screwed up your life all by yourself because of the decisions you've chose to make and that I've chose to make, which we've had plenty, or the fact that we just live in a fallen and broken world. You know the old bump sticker that says SHIT happens, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's life, right? COVID, right? Did any of us do anything to create COVID? No. Are we living in the consequences of this, of a fallen, broken world? No question about it. So what do you do when life deals you those hands? And so if we can bring those kind of guests on to share those kind of stories, life lessons, and encouragements, that's what the pursuit's about.
I'll even say that's what 5 for 5 is about as we wrap this thing up today, is again, not that, man, we've got the market cornered on truth, but I'll be honest with you, I am willing, in you, to open up truth and expose my life. When you ask me a question, I'm not going to fill their ears with BS. I mean, you're going to get what you get, and if you can take some of this and learn from it, like I've taken some notes from what you've said today, and incorporate it into your life, man, that's a win. And that means 5 for 5 is doing its job.
All right. I love it. You know what I love most is I get to ask 3 questions next time.
Yeah, you do. And you already gave me one of my 2, though. Get ready. What's the biggest failure or your biggest fear?
Failure?
Fear.
You don't want to
fear.
Go. Let's work into that, okay?
We'll work up to
You might be willing to be transparent and share everything. I don't know that I'm quite there yet. Hey, everybody, thank you again for joining us on The Pursuit. Make sure you go check us out at thepursuitonline.com and be looking for the new music contributors that will be coming hopefully very, very soon to our platform.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for joining us on The Pursuit. We'll see you next time.
See ya.